Okay, let's get some perspective on this. Joining me once again is law and crime legal analyst Imran Ansari, and joining us now is trial attorney Hunter Shkolnik. Hunter, it's great to have you here joining the conversation. Hunter, let me start with you on this because I'm curious. The jury, we're wondering what's going on. We're wondering if they're wrestling with an issue. And the idea that a man who has no criminal record, has never been diagnosed with any mental illness, although, again, if he's convicted of this, I'm sure there might be something there, that he would just one day wake up and decide to butcher his parents and dismember their bodies. Is that something that is so strange, so out of character that the jury is wrestling with and can't seem to make sense of?
I find that very hard to believe. I think you're dealing with charges associated with such a horrific crime that no jury is going to rush to a
I
conclusion,
can't
no
hear
matter how
Hunter.
strong the facts are. I'm sure they're thinking there is a mental illness component to this, but they're not being charged on an insanity defense. So I think the jury just wants to go through the evidence, want to understand really what happened here, do it methodically, do what they're supposed to do, and then they'll reach a verdict in short order. I don't
Guys, I
think
can't hear
the jury's
Hunter.
been
Okay.
out too
Now,
long
Hunter,
for
I'm
such a
sorry to
horrific crime.
interrupt you. We just got word. There's a verdict that has been reached in this case. We literally just got word of this. We're going to break in any second to ultimately see what the jury is concluding here. This is major. Again, they have 7 charges to consider ultimately what is going to be happening here. So I want to keep this conversation going. Hunter, let me go back to you now. Now that we know this, 7 charges on the table, decided pretty early since they got back to deliberating. What are you expecting?
Well, as I was saying, this is a case that had very complicated facts, horrific facts. The jury did not take that much time. The fact that they didn't return a verdict last night really isn't surprising. And to get it early in the morning on, at this phase, right while we're talking, is not a surprise. They had to do their job. They had to weigh each of those charges, and there were multiple victims. So I think this is expected. I think we're going to see a very strong verdict from this jury. And the mental illness issue is there. We know it, but that's not an excuse to this crime.
Imran, we're going to try to break in any second as we're watching this. I think we're just waiting for the judge to walk us through what we could expect then. So let's say he is found guilty across the board. We talked about the judge seemingly say he would like to sentence the defendant today on the top charges and wait another day to sentence him on those other charges. Then it becomes the question of if we'll hear from victim impact statements today. What do you predict would happen if he's found guilty?
Well, first of all, Jesse, whenever we're live and in the courtroom and we hear that there's a verdict, it's always an exciting time for us here on the air, right? What are we going to hear? Well, if as Hunter was saying, there was a lot of evidence here, and I think that the jury have thought through the charges. They're going to come back, and my guess is that they're going to come back with a top count conviction. What's going to happen then? Well, you heard the Judge Sword said that if that does in fact happen, he wants to sentence Joel Guy Jr. to that life sentence today. But there's victims in this case, right? The victims themselves can't speak. So who will speak for them? Most likely the siblings, the other children of Mr. and Mrs. Guy. And I think we will hear from them. If it's a top count, the judge will most likely give them an opportunity to speak. And if they have those victim impact statements ready, I think they'll get a chance to speak. But we'll see. But my guess is that this is going to be a top count conviction. And again, always exciting.
So if you're just joining us, a verdict has been reached. We're jumping into live court right now. Let's go.
Verdict forms to me. I'm going to review those before they're announced just to make sure they have been completed and signed. And then I'll return those to our foreperson for publication. Now, I just want to prepare everybody. Everybody's behaved.